All right, let's get right into it. We're going to unpack the actual science behind your prescriptions. Why is your dose your dose? It's all about this really cool strategy, a balancing act between making sure a medicine works and making sure it's safe.
You've probably thought about this, right? Why is one pill a once-a-day thing, while another you have to take every 4 hours? It feels kind of random, but I promise you it's not. There's this incredible science behind it, almost like a constant tug-of-war between the medicine and your body. And the secret? It's all about finding the perfect balance.
And that balance, well, that's what this is all about. You'll hear doctors talk about the therapeutic window or target concentration, but honestly, the best way to think about it is the Goldilocks zone. You need the drug level in your blood to be just right. Not too high, because that could be toxic, and not too low, because then it just won't work. The entire game, the whole point of a dosing schedule, is to get you into that zone and keep you there.
Okay, so to figure out how we stay in that sweet spot, you gotta meet the two main players in this. Let's call it a game. In one corner, you've got your body, and in the other corner, you have the drug itself. From the second that medicine enters your system, these two are locked in this dynamic dance.
So first up, we've got a fancy word, pharmacokinetics. But don't let that intimidate you. All it means is, what does the body do to the drug? That's it. Think of it as your body's 4-step process for dealing with a foreign substance: absorption, distribution, metabolism, and finally, excretion. It's how your body processes the whole thing from start to finish. And then you've got the flip side, pharmacodynamics. If kinetics is what the body does to the drug, then dynamics is what the drug does to the body. This is the drug's actual job, right? It's how it gets to where it needs to go and creates the effect we want. So, I love this way of thinking about it. Pharmacokinetics is the journey, and pharmacodynamics is the destination.
Now, for the rest of this breakdown, we're really going to zero in on the body side of things, that pharmacokinetics piece. Why? Because understanding how your body handles a drug is the absolute key to figuring out the perfect dose.
Okay, to predict how a drug is going to act, scientists lean on two really important ideas. First, there's something called volume of distribution, or VD. Now, this is a bit tricky. It's not a real volume, like a liter of water. It's more of a theoretical space. It tells us, does this drug like to hang out in the bloodstream, or does it spread way out into the body's tissues? The second big one is clearance, or CL. This one's more straightforward. It's basically a measure of how good your body, we're talking mainly your liver and kidneys here, is at getting rid of the drug.
All right, so now we have our two building blocks, volume of distribution and clearance. With these two pieces of information, we can start to actually build the dosing strategy. The entire goal is to use what we know about them to get the drug level into that Goldilocks zone, and, just as importantly, keep it there.
And this is where the game clock for all of dosing comes in. It's called the half-life. It's a super simple concept. It's just the amount of time it takes for your body to get rid of 50% of the drug. That's it. If a drug has a short half-life, it means your body clears it out fast, which is why you need to take it more often. A long half-life? Well, that means it hangs around for a while, and that's what makes those once-a-day pills possible. And guess what determines that half-life? Yep, those two things we just talked about, clearance and volume of distribution.
So check this out. When you start taking a medicine on a regular schedule, the concentration in your body starts to build up. It doesn't happen all at once. After the first half-life passes, you're at about 50% of where you'll end up. After the second, you're at 75%. It usually takes about 4 or 5 of these half-lives to reach what we call steady state. That's the magic point where the amount of drug you're taking in perfectly matches the amount your body is clearing out, and that is the target. We want you living at that steady state, right inside the therapeutic zone.
So how do we actually do that? How do we get to that steady state and then stay there? Well, there are two main tactics. First is the maintenance dose. This is your regular, everyday dose that's designed to keep you at the target. How big is that dose? It all depends on your body's clearance. But, sometimes waiting 4 or 5 half-lives just isn't an option. For that, we use a loading dose. This is a big initial dose meant to get you to the target fast, and its size is determined by the drug's volume of distribution.
I mean, just think about it for a second. If a drug has a half-life of a full day, you'd have to wait 4, maybe 5 days for it to start working properly. If you've got a really serious infection or maybe a dangerous heart rhythm, you just don't have that kind of time. A loading dose is like a shortcut. It rockets the drug level right up into the Goldilocks zone on day 1, and then the smaller maintenance doses can take over to keep it there.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Because if it was all just simple math, then hey, everyone would get the same dose, right? But we obviously don't. And that's because the standard dose is just a starting point. The real world, it's a whole lot messier. See, that dose on the bottle? It comes from studies on healthy volunteers and so-called average patients. But let's be real, who is actually average? We all have individual quirks and factors that can totally change how our body handles a drug. What this means is that a standard dose could be way too much for one person and at the same time, not nearly enough for someone else.
And this is a really big one. Different diseases can completely rewrite the rules of the game. Take something like kidney, liver, or heart failure. All of these conditions tend to slow down the body's clearance ability, so the drug doesn't get removed as fast, which means its half-life gets longer. If you keep giving a standard dose, the drug level can creep up and up into the toxic range. And that is exactly why patients with these conditions often need a smaller maintenance dose.
And hey, it's not just about major organ failure. All sorts of things play a role. Age, for example, changes your body's makeup, which can mess with the volume of distribution. If you have a lot of extra fluid, say from edema, it can act like a sponge for certain drugs. Taking other medications, they can compete with each other. And then there's your own DNA. Your genetics can literally make you a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer for specific drugs.
And just to throw one more curveball in here, some drugs don't even play by these rules. We're talking about things like alcohol or a seizure medicine called phenytoin. For these guys, the body's system for getting rid of them can literally get backed up, like a traffic jam. Once that system is saturated, clearance goes out the window. It becomes totally unpredictable. A tiny little increase in the dose can suddenly cause a massive and pretty dangerous spike in the drug level.
Okay, wow. We've just gone through a ton of variables and complexities. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the main thing to remember from all this? It really comes down to this. The perfect dose is not just some number on a bottle. It's a personalized strategy. It's a custom-built plan that takes into account your unique body, your health, and all the little things that make you different from everyone else. The goal isn't to hit a standard target. It's to find your personal Goldilocks zone.
So, I hope the next time you look at one of your prescriptions, you see it a little differently. Because that pill, that dose, it isn't just a pill. It's a personalized strategy, your custom game plan in this incredible, dynamic match between you and your medicine.